The loudest person at the table is usually not the smartest. In the early years of my 18-year career, this was one of the biggest mistakes I made too. Most of us don't truly hear what's being said. We're just waiting for the other person to stop so we can deliver our own magnificent sentence. Today, you'll see how global icons like Julia Roberts and Daniel Craig transformed into strategic geniuses using the empty mind technique. If you're ready, let's begin. During her years at the top of Hollywood, Julia Roberts realized something. Truly brilliant minds do not jockey for position. They use silence as a weapon.
What I realized, really bright people don't jockey for their position. Mm-hmm. They share their ideas and their feelings, and then they listen intently. Mm. It's the listening that I feel we've gotten the farthest from in culture, because I feel like conversations get so intense so quickly, and you're just waiting for that break in the other person so that you can say, okay, but this is why I'm right. Mm-hmm. This is why what I believe is better.
That state of waiting for a gap that Roberts mentions is actually a trick our brain plays on us. According to communication expert Celeste Headley, because we think much faster than the other person speaks, we fill that gap with our own ego.
Why do we not listen to each other? Number one, we'd rather talk. When I'm talking, I'm in control. I don't have to hear anything I'm not interested in. I'm the center of attention. I can bolster my own identity. But there's another reason. We get distracted. The average person talks at about 225 words per minute, but we can listen at up to 500 words per minute. So our minds are filling in those other 275 words. And look, I know it takes effort and energy to actually pay attention to someone. But if you can't do that, you're not in a conversation. You're just two people shouting out barely related sentences.
The rule is the same not just in business, but on the world's most difficult stages. The moment you stop planning, honesty begins. According to Zendaya and Nicole Kidman, listening is actually a form of surrender.
Yeah, because I think listening is probably the most important part of acting. You can come in with this plan, but the plan is not going to help you really.
Right.
You can have ideas, but listening and responding, as we do in life, is probably the best way to get something special.
Right. Something that feels
Is
honest.
that how you?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like kind of, it's the corny, but it's like acting is reacting, right? But it is true. It's the only way to react to something if you're present and you're listening and you're like
Right now.
well, you can tell someone like thinking about what they're going to say or what they're going to do with their hand, whatever.
Yeah.
And, and I've caught myself doing that. Like I definitely, like, when you kind of like dissociate mid-take and you're like, present, I'm present, we're back, or you start thinking too much. I'm like, why did I just do that with my eye? That was a really weird choice.
It's like, stop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Daniel Craig takes this idea a step further. To him, a real reaction only emerges when you are completely exposed to the person in front of you.
If you listen, and listening is really important, I think. I mean, listening in acting, I think, is the key. I mean, you agree, it's one of the most important things because it's sort of where your reaction comes from. I listen, and often, if you're working with brilliant.
So, how do we empty the mind? Viggo Mortensen, while describing a quality he admired in Chadwick Boseman, speaks of peripheral attention. This is the blank listening technique used by professionals.
What I really admired as much as anything was the way you listen. To me, the foundation of good acting is always good reacting. But not just there, you do that in your other roles that I've seen too, as Thurgood Marshall, as Jackie Robinson, James Brown. You have an ability, even when you're in motion, even when you're in action, you're very attentive, it seems to me, to your environment, no matter what genre you're in. And I love that about your work.
Based on my 18 years of experience and these analyzed files, here is your listening strategy to take control in any environment. Discard the intent to reply. Stop building that magnificent sentence in your head or waiting for your turn while the other person is speaking. Truly brilliant minds don't try to jockey for position to prove themselves. Manage the 275-word gap. Our brains can listen, 500 words minute, much faster than the speed of speech, 225 words minute. Use that 275-word gap to analyze the other person's emotions rather than letting your attention wander. Stop planning and surrender. Entering communication with pre-prepared patterns kills honesty. The best results are achieved by staying in the moment and surrendering to the process rather than sticking to a plan. Acting is reacting. Real communication begins when you are fully exposed to the other person and present in the moment. Instead of thinking about your turn, focus on what the other person makes you feel and give natural reactions. Develop peripheral attention. As Viggo Mortensen suggests, pay attention to the entire environment and the energy of the moment with an empty mind, not just the words. This emptiness will grant you strategic genius. Listening is not just a communication skill, it is the courage to enter another person's world. In our next episode, we will free ourselves from the heaviest burden on your shoulders, the obligation to be perfect. As Guillermo del Toro says, we will talk about gold-plating our cracks, Kintsugi, instead of hiding them, and why, as Laura Linney advocates, we should be great proponents of failure. You will see that your flaws are actually your strongest weapons. Stay tuned so you don't miss it. Listen, because the world is telling you something you don't yet know.